It's gonna get me. I'll hide under these rocks. No, is it gone? No, it's right there. I think no, it's gonna eat me. It's definitely gonna eat me. That feel as real to everybody else as it did to me. Not a single one of you. I thought I was gonna die up here. Not a single one of you guys was scared at all. Gosh, it's a tough crowd. Well, I just had a near-death experience, and I'm glad nobody else was scared. Have you guys tried these things before, though? They're pretty cool. It's pretty cool how I could be like running away from a dinosaur 1 second, then I'm like flying in outer space the next second. I got to play around with these not too long ago. I was like, this stuff is pretty cool. And they're expensive, but they're pretty cool. How they kind of like put a reality on top of your reality. Like I could be up here with this thing on and I could just be like scrolling YouTube or whatever, but it's like a reality on top of reality. It's super cool, or it can just take you to a completely different place. And I got to thinking, we're starting a new series called Find Your Way. The point of the series is really just to help direct, how do we not get lost along the way? How do we not get stuck? How do we know the right decisions to make, the right directions to go? We want to help guide you in that. And it got me thinking, if we're gonna find our way, honestly, the most basic thing, it's gotta start with what we see and how we see it. And I got to thinking about these. I think all of us wear a version of these. We all wear some kind of goggles, probably not VR goggles. We all have some kind of goggles that we wear, and we see life through them. It's not our eyes, it's actually like eyes that we see through. It's a filter that goes on every part of our lives. Let me illustrate here. I used to travel a ton, and I remember when I would get to a new country, and I got to a country where it was like, oh, cool, it's an American. I'm like, hey, guys, and we would start talking, and we'd be joking around and stuff. They're like, have you done any movies? I'm like, no. They're like, okay, do you know Oprah? And I'm like, no, I don't know Oprah. Why would I know Oprah? And then they were just like, because you were American, it was like, okay, you're probably like from California or something. They had this vision already of what an American would be like. Sorry, I wasn't fulfilling their expectations, but they already had a preconceived vision of what an American was like. I get on a plane and I go to a different country. I kid you not, I am walking down the street and there's a dude like eyeballing me. I'm like, hey, sup? And he stops what he's doing. And he goes, hey, you, why don't you climb that building and jump off and go kill yourself? I was like, oh, that escalated quickly. I think I'm just gonna keep on walking this way. I kid you not. And I got to thinking, like, did I wave wrong? Like, what did I do? And don't try to tell the country by my accent, because that's not gonna help at all. My accents are not on point. The thing was, I don't know what his vision was, but when he saw me, even though he didn't know me, he already had a vision of what he thought I was. Maybe he didn't like Americans. Maybe he had a bad experience. Maybe it was something he saw on the news. But we all have these that we see life through. And if we're gonna find our way in life, we need to figure out, what is God seeing? Because I can be really wrong. I could be running away from a dinosaur, run out my front door and run into a real car, running away from a fake dinosaur. We need to be really careful about what we see and how we see. And the crazy thing is, God is the only one who's not wearing a set of these, because he made reality. Like, when you make reality, you get to kind of decide how things go. You get to decide what truth is. He's not stuck in the painting. He's actually the painter. Like, for me, like, I'm stuck in the painting. Like, I've got left or right. I'm in a 2D world, right or wrong. He is outside the painting. He gets to decide what truth is, what right and wrong is. And I have to ask him, God, what's right here? I don't really know. God is outside, but he created everything so it works together. So I've got to see God's worldview, and I've got to ask him, God, what do you see through your eyes? And our main thought today is we want to write our reality through faith. Let faith write your reality. And Jesus tries to teach his disciples this in a crazy moment where Jesus and his disciples out on the boat, and all of a sudden, a storm hits. Mark chapter 4, we're gonna go to 37. But soon a fierce storm came up and high waves were breaking into the boat and it began to fill with water. Everybody check your shoes real quick. They got water on them? Yeah. The waves are coming in the boat. Now, this is crazy because these were fishermen, okay? They were prepared for water. They were not sissies. They knew what to do on the water, and they had probably faced some storms before. And these guys were scared. And their conditions started to write their reality. And when things get scary and we start letting our conditions of whatever's going on in our life start to write our reality, I tell you, you're gonna have a tragedy on your hand real quick. Because conditions, just like the weather, can change like that. And if we let them write our reality, we're gonna be in a really unfortunate spot. I remember in middle school, I was just terrible at math. And I was so behind in my math that when I was doing my homework, you know, there's like the easy ones at the beginning and then it gets harder and harder. Like the whole thing was just stupid hard. I couldn't figure out any of them. And I remember getting so mad, I just crumpled up my notebook and I chucked it against the wall and I just screamed out, I am never going to get this. And I remember that moment because it actually was a pivotal moment where the way that I saw things changed. I started to create a worldview that I wasn't capable, that I was just gonna fail at this. No matter how hard I tried, I was never gonna be able to figure it out. And it's just better that I quit. And actually that moment started a really hard process for me where I was stuck in that. I let my conditions write my reality. And the funny thing is, math is hard for a lot of people. So letting your conditions write your reality is only going to lead to tragedy. So what happens? Where was Jesus in this whole mess? Let's find out. Verse 38 here. Jesus, get this, sleeping at the back of the boat with his head on a cushion. The disciples woke him up shouting, "Teacher, don't you even care that we're gonna drown?" They're shouting at him at this point. This thing takes like an emotional twist really quick. It went from like, oh, water's pretty choppy, and like, okay, this is pretty bad, I might just die. And then it's like, God, you don't even care about me. Now, we would never escalate this quickly, would we? Like when our conditions get really bad, when we're feeling like a failure, when we're feeling all alone, when we feel like nothing's going our way, we wouldn't escalate to, God, you don't even care about me. Where are you? But unfortunately, a lot of times I do. I know a lot of times that's an easy thing to jump to. Look, there's waves crashing in all around me. God, you just must not care. But I want to warn you, don't let your emotions write your reality either. Because our emotions, they're fickle. They can be up, they can be down, they can change on a dime. And if you let your emotions run your reality, they're gonna lie to you. Because the truth is, very clearly, that Jesus loved them so much. Like, how could you even get to that place? Like, okay, yeah, I guess God doesn't love me. But they were letting their emotions drive the boat at that point, and all the wheels were falling off. Guys, don't let your emotions write your reality for you because it's not gonna paint a good picture. God loves us more than we know. And the problem with that is we don't see the world the way that it is. We see the world the way we are. So if I feel angry, I'm gonna see the world as an angry and violent place. If I'm filled with the love of Jesus, I'm gonna see Jesus everywhere I go. I don't wanna let emotions write my reality. I wanna let faith write my reality. Here in verse 38. So when Jesus woke up, he rebuked the wind and the waves and said, "Silence, be still." And suddenly the wind stopped and there was a great calm. Everybody take a deep breath. And then get this. Jesus says, "So why were you afraid? don't you have any faith? As I was just reading this, I got kind of mad for the disciples. Seriously, like, okay, we are about to die on this boat. I had to come wake you up, bro. We were about to die. Why are you afraid? Do you not have any faith? And I was wrestling with this, being like, Jesus, aren't you a little harsh on them? Like, they were about to die. But get this, Jesus wanted their faith to write their reality. Get this, Jesus knew that they were going to reach land. Jesus didn't care how high the waves were. And the disciples were stuck looking at the waves, letting their conditions write their reality, letting their emotions that were welling up write their reality. And Jesus is catching this moment and saying, stop with all that. Let your faith write your reality. Jesus didn't care how sick the guy was. He knew he could snap his fingers and he'd be well. He didn't care how crippled the cripple was. He knew that he could be healed. He didn't care how dead the dead guy was. He knew he could say, stand up, and it would happen. Jesus was not afraid of the waves, and he didn't want his disciples to live in fear of their conditions the rest of their lives. So yes, Jesus was hard on them, but it's because he wanted them to let their faith write their reality rather than their fear, rather than just be stuck in this endless cycle that just keeps on going like, oh, hard things happen, and then I'm afraid, and then I quit. And then he wanted them to see the world the way he saw it. So I want to challenge you guys. When your conditions are hard, when emotions are running high, are you letting your fear write your reality? Put on your God goggles. It's a lame thing to call it, but I couldn't think of anything better. I want to challenge you in those moments. Put on goggles. Imagine, what would Jesus be seeing right now? How would he see this? So my challenge for you guys, goggle swap. Identify some ways that your fears or culture is telling you to think. And I want you to compare it to the way that Jesus is encouraging us to think.